you have the balance and you have the ability to take on a passion project or multiple passion projects. But you have to have a certain level of business and you have to have a certain level of growth to see that. I mean, if you're just in the weeds all day, it's very hard to accomplish what we want to accomplish in our careers and our lives. So take us back to how you built your law practice and became a great trial lawyer and won some massive verdicts. I was looking you up and all the big verdicts you had. And I know my audience would love to hear that piece of the story.
Well, I started in the late 80s, and at that time, I went to work for legal aid. I thought I wanted to be a legal aid lawyer, but probably thankfully, President Reagan at the time put a hiring freeze on legal aid lawyers, and I was only making $8 an hour. So I decided to go into practice. First, I worked for a firm for a couple of years, and then I decided to hang up my own shingle, which in law world means literally go out on your own. And it's tough because you've got to be both a businessman and also an advocate for your clients. But first and foremost, you have to work on behalf of your clients. And I took every little case that could be imaginable. I even took the cases where, for what we would say, ladies of the street that were caught. And I went to criminal court, and some of the men of the street, and went to criminal court. And I'll never forget one young lady said to me, well, what do you charge per hour? And I said, $200 an hour. And she said, me too. And I said, well, no, we don't do that.
That's not an even trade in your book.
Right. No, not an even trade, Steve. But so I started out with little small cases and going to court. And then I handled my first auto accident, another one. And then about 15, 20 years ago, and then I handled quite a few medical malpractice cases as well. But then 15, 20 years ago, a case came into my office involving abused children. And I wasn't even sure how I was going to handle that. And they were abused in the foster care world. And I thought, well, what is even the cause of action? The lawyers will know what I mean by that. What do you file this under? Is it negligent? Is it willful and wanton? What's the theory? And I did a lot of work and research on it, took that first case to trial. We won a pretty sizable settlement. And then I took another one, and then I started writing articles about it. And now I've taken children's cases across the country. And, the first 10 years of the practice, though, as I would tell any young lawyer starting out, it's tough. It's tough. You might have to take those small cases. You have to invest in your business and not take a profit sometimes. You have to work hard, and maybe your client wants to settle a case for much lower than you thought, but you've got to, do what your client wants. And maybe you're going to eat some ramen noodles and some macaroni and cheese in the beginning. But all I can say is that the road has been worth it for me.
Yeah.
And it's been a great road.
And I think whether you're starting your own practice or you're in a mid-market large firm, small firm, doesn't really matter. It's really you Inc. You incorporated. It's your business under the umbrella that is one that you made or one that was made for you. But I think that's what this show's all about. It's helping people to understand that that's really where the balance, the freedom, the control comes from. And my father's great. My father's a retired lawyer, and he would love this show and he'd love this quote that you gave at the beginning. And he's a big advocate for, he did everything. He took on everything, but it was all about, son, you got to have your own show. You don't want to end up working for someone else your whole life and not controlling your destiny. And it really cemented my mindset that sales was the way for me to do it, one way. And second was that I was definitely going to own my business at some point. It was just a matter of what. And I didn't realize at all that I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I mean, I'm not a lawyer and I never thought I'd work with lawyers. So it's really
nice.
Well, I work with the best.
Isn't it great setting your own hours? And you probably you probably make yourself work harder. You're tougher on yourself than other people would be tougher on you. But I think that there's an incredible, wonderful thing about starting your own practice or being your own person. Again, not that, there's some great law firms out there, and I will say it's a lot tougher nowadays than it was when I started my practice. But I mean, there's a great feeling in getting up in the morning, going to your office at the time that if you want to show up at 10 or 9 or 7, you're doing your own thing. You're turning on the lights, you're paying your bills, and it's a great growth experience.